And now, so from my original line being of the equation y equals 9 divided by 5x plus 8 over 5, my new line, my perpendicular line, is going to have a slope that's just the opposite reciprocal, -5 over 9. Is there any question about this? Okay, let's go from here to the second question. The first question was just what is the slope of the line that's perpendicular to this line? The second question is what is the equation of this perpendicular line if it passes through the point 0, -3? Now, remember, any equation that we're writing y equals mx plus b. We have to fill in the m, which is the slope, and we have to fill in the b. And we already, from this first step, have figured out what the slope is. The slope is -5 over 9, which means I'm going to fill it in. The m, that's the slope, is -5 over 9, x plus b. I still don't have the b. So that's where I look at this number. This is going to help me find the b. I'm going to do it a long way, and then I'm going to do it for this particular question. I'll show you there really was a shortcut. To say that a point is on the line means that when you put in the x and y of the point into the equation, it'll make it a true statement. It'll make the equation work. So I can put in this equation, in place of the x, now be careful here, because in the equation, the x comes second, the y comes first. But in the point, the first number is always the x, and the second number is always the y. So I'm going to put a 0 in place of the x, and I'm going to put a -3 in place of the y, because that's the point that I was given. So what do we get over here? I'm just moving a little bit over here. I'm getting -3, that's my y, equals -5, 9, our slope, times 0, because our x is 0, plus b. Now you could do this on your calculator. It might help to practice these things on your calculator, but this is really sort of an easy multiplication, because -5, 9 times 0, anything times 0 will give us 0. So this becomes -3 equals 0 plus b. And 0 plus b is just b. So b equals -3. If you notice, I could have seen that right away. The b is the y-intercept. How do we know what a point is a y-intercept? When the x value is 0, because on the y-axis, the x value is 0. So the b, I could have just looked at this. Whenever my x is 0, the y is the b. So my equation now, my final answer is y equals -5, 9 x minus 3. So y equals 9 over 5x plus 8 over 5 was our original line. And the equation of the perpendicular line was y equals -5 over 9x minus 3. Okay. Are there any questions about this? Can I erase this now? Anybody still? Okay, everybody got this down? So I can give you another problem. And we're going to do one more like this, and then we'll go on to something a little bit different. Okay. So I am now erasing this. I'm leaving that on the board as a reminder. And I'm going to look at this problem. I'm giving you this equation. I y minus 15x equals 12. I want an equation of a line parallel to this line. And going through the point -2, -1. Okay, so here's my original line. Again, let's call this A. I want a line parallel to line A. And going through point -2, -1. So the first step you're going to do is, of course, find the slope. Okay, I'm giving you a few minutes to think about what is the slope of the line that's parallel to this line. While you're doing that, I'm going to start taking attendance. So listen for your name and please respond. Olivia August. Isis Barco. Alvaro Blake. Luis Cayola. Emma.
I'm here.
Okay, great. I'm glad somebody's here. Demetrius.
Here.
Good. Desmond. Shania Haley.
I'm right here. I was trying to click it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it takes a while until you can open up your. You could also always answer me on the chat by just saying here. Caden Harris. Kayla Harris.
Here.
Hi, Kayla. Sanjita Hussain.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, good morning. Oriana, I know you're here. I don't have to even answer me. We had a long discussion, so. And I'm usually on, as I said, I'm usually on certainly by 8, but even usually by 7:45, I'm on and I'm sitting here. If you come on early, you can always ask me questions and we can work on things individually if you want to do that. Tahira. Michaela,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Kiana. Kiana Perez,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Carly, I know you're here because we just had a discussion on the chat. Jenna Pierre, Tatiana,
Here.
I know you're here. Thank you. Thanks for putting things on the chat also. Naya, I know you're here because I also saw.
Here.
Thank you for answering those questions. You went, as far as you went, you did good work. It's very hard to remember what is wanted. So you have to read these questions over a few times because, as I said, it's so many things involved. Here, I'm giving you, even in this question, I'm giving you what the equation of the line is. And I'm asking you to find this equation of the line that's parallel to that line. So there's a couple of things you have to do. Remember, the first thing you're going to do is find the slope of the line. Kazandu small. Trina small. Jean Thomas. Let me see. Okay, got everybody. Let's see. Okay. Has anybody put this in the y equals mx plus b form? If you did, I'd like to see it on the, see if somebody put it on the chat. What is the original line A in the y equals mx plus b form? Anybody want more time on this? Okay. Okay, let's get started. Let's see what we can come up with. Anytime I'm asked about something that has to do with lines that are either parallel or perpendicular, almost, Naya, we're going to get there. to get the lines that are parallel or perpendicular, we have to find the slope. And we find the slope by putting it in the y equals mx plus b form. In other words, I have to get this y by itself, which means I have to get rid of this 15x. And since there's a minus in front of the 15x, I'm going to do plus 15x to both sides. Okay, so that gives me, just bring down the 5y and get rid of my 15x, so this is no longer there. And then I have the on the other side of equal sign, I now have the 12 and the 15x. And remember, I can't combine them because they are not like terms. So this is going to be 15x plus 12. Everything is positive. You don't have to put this positive sign in front of the number if it's, unless it's in between, because then you just need something in between. But 5y and 15x are both positive because they don't have any negative sign in front of them. Okay, I'm almost finished in this step because I have to get the y by itself, which means I have to divide by 5. Now here's where you have to be very careful. You have to divide every single thing by 5, not just the y's, not just the x's, but the numbers as well. So that my equation comes out to be y equals, because this cancels out, 15 divided by 5 is 3, so this is 3x. And this doesn't cancel, reduce, so I just leave it. So here is my line A is written in y equals mx plus b form, which tells me that the slope of the line is 3. The number that's attached to the x is the slope. The 12 over 5, the standalone number, the number that's not attached to the x, is the y-intercept. 12 over 5 is the y-intercept of this line. So if I were asked, what's the slope of the line, you would tell me 3. What's the y-intercept? You'd tell me 12 over 5. Okay, so let's go back to the question. The question was, write the equation of the line that's parallel to this line. Well, what do parallel lines have? They have exactly the same slope. So let's call this line B the one that we're writing the equation of. It's y equals mx plus b is what we're looking for. And the m has to be 3 because if the lines are going to be parallel, they've got to have the same slope. In other words, my line is now y equals 3x plus b. This is not my b because this was the b of the original line. I have another line. It has to have the same slope, but it's b, its y-intercept has to be different. But they gave me a clue to figure it out because they say the point that's on this line is -2, -1, which means like we did before, where we have the x, we're going to put a -2. And where we have the y, we're going to put a -1. And from there, figure out the b. So this becomes -1 equals 3 times -2. Remember, this is 3x, so 3 times the x. 3 times -2 is -6 plus b. And to figure that out, I have to get the 6 to the other side. -1 plus 6 is +5. This cancels. My b for this line is 5. So the answer to the question what is the equation of the line that's parallel to 5y minus 15x equals 12 and going through the point -2, -1 is y equals 3x, because the m we know is 3, plus 5 because the b is 5. Once I have the m and the b, I can put it all together to get the answer. Are we okay with this now? Again, a lot of steps. Okay. I want to go through writing equations of two other kinds of lines. And then I want to talk about something called functions, which will basically finish us chapter 2. And we will be starting in chapter 3. We'll still keep reviewing this. Again, this is the hard stuff. This is quite difficult, but we'll keep doing it until we feel comfortable. But again, I know the problem is that there's so many things being asked here. You have to go through so many steps in order to get to your final answer. You have to work with your first equation, then you have to work with your second equation. Again, when you're dealing with multiple choice answers, if you right away see one of the answers is y equals 3x, and it's the only one that has that, you don't really have to go through all the process because you know your slope has to be 3. Sometimes they word the question in such a way that you can pick out the answer without actually doing the whole thing. But we're still in the stage where we're doing this whole thing because we're doing these as open-ended questions, not multiple choice. Naya, you said you had a question that you wanted to, that you were having trouble with on Delta.
Yes, I did. Hold on.
Okay, so let's see if we can look at that. Can I erase this now?
Yeah, you could erase it. I copied
Okay,
it. Well, that's only 10.
you read it to me and I'll try and put in the important information.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. What is the equation of the line that passes through the point 3, comma, -8 and has a slope of -4/3?
-4/3 or 5/3?
4/3.
Okay. Okay. So let's see how we could work this one out. To write again, when this is our slope, this is our m, because that's what they told us. So they're giving us a slope and they're giving us a point on the line. Again, our equation is y equals mx plus b. Do we know what the m is? Naya?
Yes, it's
Well,
-4/3, right?
Right, so my equation right away is y equals -4/3 x plus b. Now, did they give you this as a multiple choice? 'Cause I don't-
No, it
No,
gave
okay.
us, we had to write out the equation.
Okay, because some of the questions I know I gave as multiple choice just to. Okay, but what am I looking for? I'm now looking to figure out the b. I have the m, now I want to find the b. So I go to the point, and wherever I see an x, what am I going to put? What am I going to put in place of this?
You gotta plug in the number 3.
Right? And what am I going to plug in place of the y?
The -8.
Right. Okay, let's see how this works out. This stays -8. But here I have a -4, I'm putting it on the side, times a 3. When you have a letter next to a number without anything in between, what you're doing is multiplying. Now, how are you going to do this? This -4/3 times 3. There are two options. You could take out your calculator. And I'm going to give you the steps on how to do it on the calculator because it's important for you to be able to do things on the calculator. And then I'm gonna do it without the calculator. How do we do -4/3 times 3? So the first thing you have to do is put in the negative sign. That is not the subtraction sign. There's a button that has either a parentheses with a negative in it or something of that nature, or sometimes it looks like this. Might have this written on it. It is not the subtraction button. The subtraction buttons are in a column on the, all the way, most calculators on the right side, but there is a minus button. You press that. Then you put in, okay, so we're putting in the minus. Then we put in the 4. Then you press the division button. I'm putting these, because a fraction means you're dividing. You put in the 3. Then you press the multiplication button. Now, the multiplication button usually looks like an X or a dot or whatever. This is not an X, what it is, it's a multiplication, and then you put in 3. Did you try this on a calculator?
Yes, I tried it on a calculator, but every answer I kept getting, it was just,
Okay, did you try it right now?
I'm gonna try it right now.
Everybody else should be trying this also. You should have your calculator with you in class. Again, I was glad to see that a couple of people have shown me calculators they bought, and they are really, I think everybody in this class has so far bought the same thing, the TI 30X.
I got -4.
-4. Perfect. That's exactly what you should be getting. Why? Let me just show you why it would have worked if you did it by your hand. Remember, 3 really means 3/1. And the 3 on the bottom cancels out with the 3 on the top, and I have -4 times 1, which is -4/1. So that'll give you -4. Anytime the top and the bottom cancel out, you're just left with what's on top. Okay, so let's go back. Let me erase some of this. Get used to using your calculator, not on, even on the simple ones, so that when you get the hard questions, you feel comfortable with your calculator. Okay, so in place of this, I'm putting -4 plus b. Now I can figure out what the b is by adding 4 to both sides. -8 plus 4 is -4. The b turns out to be -4. So now I can write my whole equation. Y equals -4/3 x, because that's the m, is -4/3 plus, actually not plus, but minus b is, plus b is -4. Here's what your equation should look like. And when you're putting it into your delta math, that's what you should write. Y equals, do the negative, the 4 divided by the negative, it's all on your keyboard. Again, over 3, do the slant. This is how it would look like on your delta. And then do x -4. And that'll give you the answer. Are you okay now with it, Naya?
Yeah, I'm okay now with it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions they'd like me to go through? Okay, so let's talk about a question that sounds like this. This actually, again, I'm using that practice sheet 2. It says determine the equation of the line described. So we're describing a line. It's horizontal. And it goes through the point -5, 2. Now, just for this question, let's just look at what's being asked here. Here's my graph, here's my X, here's my Y. Here's my, let's remember, the point -5, 2 is 5 to the left and 2 up. And here's the point -5, 2. We want a line that's horizontal. Horizontal means straight across. Here's what that line will look like. I did it in a different color so you would see it. Vertical lines go up and down. Horizontal lines go straight across. The horizontal line, you notice, is actually parallel to the x-axis. So sometimes we could say the line is parallel to the x-axis, but that means it's horizontal. Anytime you have a horizontal line, its equation is just y equals a number. It has no x in it. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. They're not going up, they're not going down. So therefore, there's no x in the equation, just a y. And it's very easy to remember, to figure out what y is. Look at the point it's going through and look at the y value. The y value here is 2. We don't care what the x is when we have a horizontal line. So for this particular line, the equation is y equals 2. Anytime you have a horizontal line, it's y equal, and just look at what the y of the point is, and that's what it's going to be. Now, what if the question was not what is a horizontal line, but what is the vertical line through this point? So here's what the vertical line would look like. Trying to do it in different colors so that you can tell the difference. This is y equals 2, because the green is the horizontal. The red we're now doing is the vertical. This is my vertical line. A line that goes straight up and down is vertical. And a vertical line has the equation x equals a number, and it has no y in it. So therefore, the equation for this line is x equals, well, let's see what the x is. It's -5. So really, these are much easier examples to do than the y equals mx plus b's, because with vertical and horizontal lines, you don't have this whole long y equals mx plus b. With vertical lines, you only have x equal a number. With horizontal lines, you only have y equals a number. So all you have to do is look at the point. The horizontal line will be y equal whatever the y is. The vertical line will be whatever the x is. X equals that number. Just as an aside, we said this line that is horizontal has a slope of 0. It does not go up or down. It has a slope of 0. Vertical lines have no slope. They have undefined slope. Let me just write this here, slope equals 0. Here, slope undefined. Or does not exist. Does not exist, you want to write it that way. So the only kind of lines that don't have any slopes are vertical lines, because you get, when you try to figure out the slope, you get a 0 in the denominator. Okay, let's see if we can look. I'm going to give you a problem to try and see if you can do that. Okay. Okay, here's the question I want you to try. Find the equation of a line that's vertical and goes through the point -5. No, I want to do something different, not -5 again. 6, -3. So a vertical line that goes through this point, what is its equation? And remember, it's going to be a simple thing, either x equals something or y equals something. Okay, I'm expecting to see something written on the chat. All you need to do is write either something like this or something like this. Really easy equation to type in. Should I just call on somebody? I see some people are just nobody has an answer to this? Okay, I guess I have to do it. Let's look at this. I want the equation of a line that's a vertical line that goes through the point 6, -3. Now I'm going to draw this, but you don't have to draw. All you have to do is write the equation. Where's the point 6, 3? Well, 6, -3, it's 6 to the right and 3 down. Naya, that's perfect. Thank you. A vertical line is one that goes straight up and down. And we said, when you have a vertical line, you have an equation that says x equals a number. There's no y in that equation when you're talking about a vertical line. So what is the x here? Well, this is a 0.6 negative 3. So the x is 6. So the equation of the line, this is what I wanted you to give me, is x equal to 6. And that would be your answer. These are easy to write because you don't have to do this whole, you don't have to find slopes or anything like that. You just look at the point itself. Okay. There's one more topic that I want to talk about from this chapter that I'm just going to give a brief explanation. It's a topic that really will be covered much more when you take a pre-calculus course. So let's look at what that. It's something that has to do with functions. And functional notation. We're used to seeing equations that look like this. Y equals 3x minus 5. Notice it's what we call the y equals mx plus b. Sometimes we'll even see something with later on that has exponents in it. We might even see something like this. Y equals x squared plus 7x minus 5. This would be the equation of a line because it's y equals mx plus b. This is not a line. We're going to talk about this later in the term. It's something called a parabola, but we'll talk about it and don't even write it down at this point. But it's just, remember what these type of equations are doing. They're giving us a way of, if you're figuring out, if you know what the x of the point is, you can figure out what the y of the point is by sticking it in the equation. For example, if I give you x in this first equation, if I tell you x equals 2, you can figure out that the y is going to be, you replace the x with 2, 3 times 2 minus 5, which works out to be 6 minus 5 or 1. When the x is 2, the y would have to be 1. That's what these equations are that have two variables. It's not an equation we can solve because we have not just an x, we have an x and a y. What we can solve is if you know what the x is, you can figure out what the y is. Over here also, let's say I told you that here x equals 3. You could figure out what the y is by replacing the x with 3. So then you would get y equals 3 squared, because that's what the x is, plus 7 times 3 minus 5. And you have to work this out. Well, 3 squared is 9. 7 times 3 is 21 minus 5. And if I combine all of these, 9 and 21 is 30. 30 minus 5 is 25, which tells me when For the second equation, these are two different equations. In the second equation, if the x is 3, the y would have to be 25. So we could always figure out the y value if you're given what the x value is. Now, one of the things that might have been confusing over here is that I talked about two things being y. First, I said y is equal to 3x minus y. And then I talked about y, let's call this equation 1. And then I gave you a second equation where y equals x squared plus 7x minus 5. Now, these equations had nothing to do with each other. They were just different problems. Unfortunately, I called both of them y. It said, find the y over here, find the y over here. I had to be very explicit to tell you which y am I looking for. When I said x equals 2, I said in the first equation. If you would have put it into the second equation, you wouldn't have gotten the right answer because I specifically wanted you to do this y. Now, there is a way of giving different names to different equations so that it's easier to keep track as to what's question or which equation I want you to look at. Okay, I'm just gonna erase these. And we're gonna come back to this. Of course, now I forgot what this equation was. Y equals x squared. And 7x minus 5. I think that was the equation. Okay. Instead of calling this y, we could call y something like f parentheses x. This is called f of x. I could have written this, instead of writing this y equals 3x minus 5, I could have written this as f of x equals 3x minus 5. When I use this f of x symbol instead of y, I'm just telling you that what I'm dealing with is a function. I'm not even describing what a function is at this point. Well, I guess I could. In a function, in an equation, notice what happens. When I put in one value into the x, I get exactly one answer for the y. That's what a function is. An equation where one x gives you exactly one y. So when we have those type of equations, I can use this f of x, this functional notation, in place of the y. And notice, if I want you to pick x to be equal to 2, for example, I could say find f, this is written f of 2. F of 2 means find the f, which is the y, when the x, that's why we have to put that f of x, when the x is 2. That means just go to your equation and replace the x with 2. And again, we get 1. F of 2, instead of saying the y value when the x is 2, all we have to do is say find f of 2. F of 2 is 1. That means the y is 1. The f is the y value. F of 2 means the y value when x equals 2. If you have two equations in the same problem, you could do something better also. You can call one, the letters that we use for this functional notation are usually letters like F and G and H, like those sort of early middle letters of the alphabet. So I've already used F for one function. If I can use a different letter for the other function, I could call this one G of x. Now, all I'm doing is saying g of x is also equal to y. But now it's going to be easy to determine which equation I want you to look at. Because if I say find f of x, you'll know to look at equation 1. If I'll ask you to find g of x, you'll know to look at question 2. So instead of calling this y equals x squared plus 7x minus 5, we could call it g of x equals x squared plus 7x minus 5. And then if I wanted to, I could say find g, and I'm gonna give you a different number. I think before we did g of 3, so let's do find g of 3. What does find g of 3 mean? Take your x in your equation, in your g equation, because that's what we're looking at, and replace your x with 3. Remember, g of 3 means the y value when the x is 3. And all you have to do is, again, replace the x with 3, which is what we did before. This gave us 9 plus 21 minus 5, which gave us 25. So we could say that g of 3 equals 25, which is equivalent to saying that one of the points on the graph is the point 3, comma 25. On the G graph, which we didn't even graph. On the F graph, which is this one of the points is a point 2, comma 1, because when x is 2, the f of 2, the y equals 1. So I'm going to give you some problems to try with this. This is what's called functional notation. Basically, in this class, that's all you have to know about functions. When you get to your next math class, hopefully you'll get into Math 151 after this course, you'll learn a lot more about what functions can do. Okay, so here's an example. Question? Okay, suppose I give you that f of x, this is question number 21 on the example sheet. F of x equals 3x squared minus 2x minus 10. And the first question is find f of 2. I want you to do this, find f of 2, and then I'm going to ask you to find f of 0. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to try this. it's two different problems. One is to find first f of 2, and then problem that's A, and B is go back and find, forget about this, start all over again and find f of 0. Remember, all your answer here is going to be is a single number. You're just going to have to figure out if it's a single number. When you're asked for f of 2, this is a number, your answer is going to be a number where all you're going to do is replace the x with 2. I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to give you time to try another one. Again, what does it mean to find f of 2? It means go to your equation, your f equation, and wherever you have an x, this is on the right side, whatever you have an x, replace it with 2. It's as if I'm asking you, what is the y value when x, you got a fraction. Let's see if we get a fraction. Okay. So let's try this. Where there's an x, I'm putting a 2. So this means 3 times 2 squared minus 2 times 2. Remember, when you have a letter next to a number, that means it's being subtracted, it's being multiplied, and now we're subtracting 10. Now, again, you could take out your calculator and put this directly into your calculator. But this is not so hard, so let's do it without the calculator. But let's remember, when you're doing these things, you have to do things in the proper order of operation. So which means first look for exponents, then look for multiplication, and then do addition. So the first thing I see is this 2 squared. I first have to do 2 times 2, which is going to give me 4. So this is going to give me 3 times 4, which together is going to give me 12. Remember, and you can do this in your calculator. 3 times 2, there's a button that says x squared, just press that 2x squared, it'll put it right in, it'll square it. Press, when you want to do a square, just press what's called the x squared button. Then we have minus 2 times 2, so that gives me minus 4 and minus 10. So 12 minus 4 is 8, and 8 minus 10 is negative 2. My final answer that I got was negative 2. Okay. Hey, let's see if you could now do f of 0. By the way, I see most people are doing this, but let me just mention, if you come in late and it's after I've taken attendance, just send me your name on the chat, or just say, I'm late or whatever. So I know to put you on as being present.
Yeah, I was late. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw, but
Up late today.
Jenna, I saw you came in.
Yeah. Thank you.
I keep trying to check but it's easier if you let me know. Okay, let's look at this question. How do we find f of 0? So let's go through it again. What do we have to do? We have to replace the x with 0. So it's the same equation. I'm going to do 3 times 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 10. Now, when you replace x with 0, that really, I saw Isis that you were here. Oh, no, I didn't. I did not mark you here. I got you, Isis. Okay. Okay. Let me get back to this. Whenever we're replacing a 0 or x is 0, that whole term drops out because 0 times anything is 0. So this will be 0. This will be 0. These are just 0. So 0 minus 10. My whole answer is just negative 10. Actually, f of 0 is usually one of the easiest things to do, simply because 0 times anything is 0, and you just have to look at the other terms. Okay. Just want to finish up this topic and go a little bit. Suppose I gave you that g of x. Now remember, g of x means the same thing as f of x. It's just I'm using a different name. So like instead of calling something x, I'm calling it y. It doesn't matter. It's just another name for y. Suppose I have g of x equals 3x minus 2. Now we would know that this is what we call a linear function. Because if this was y, this would be y equals 3x minus 2. It's in the form of mx plus b. Graphically, again, g of x is another way of saying y. Okay, here's question 1. Find g of negative 1. Okay, I'm giving you a minute. Everybody should be able to do this. I'd like to see an answer on the chat. All right, well, what are we going to do when we want to find g of negative 1? We are going to replace x in the equation by negative 1. So this will give me, remember, that's why this is so easy, because whatever you put in over here for the x, that's what you put on the other side for x. So 3 times x, well, now my x is negative 1, minus 2. Again, if you want, you could just stick this right into your calculator. 3 times, remember, negative 1 means you have to press that negative button. Minus, subtract 2. And 3 times negative 1, of course, is negative 3. And negative 3 minus 2 gives me negative 5. Your final answer is negative 5. It's essentially saying you have, remember we said this is a linear equation, it's a line, and one of the points on the line is negative 1, negative 5. When the x is negative 1, the y. The g of -1 is another name for y, is -5. Okay, here's another one. What if I ask you to find g of t? It's a little strange thing to ask, but all I'm telling you is, if I want you to do g of t, I want you to go to your equation, and in place of the x, wherever I have x, that's why we write this over here, because we know what we're replacing. We're going to replace the x with t. So this will become 3t instead of 3x, because I'm asking for g of t minus 2. In other words, this functional notation is very flexible. Notice I can't go any further with this because they're not like terms. I don't know what t is, and I don't have to know what t is. If they ask me to figure out what g of t is, it means your answer is going to have a t in it. What if I ask something like this? G of a plus 1. What would I mean by doing g of a plus 1? Well, I go back. Remember, whatever I put over here, I go for my x and I replace it by whatever is in here. So now, remember, I'm taking out the x. I'm not multiplying by x. I'm taking out the x and I'm filling it with an a plus 1. So therefore, this will become 3. I have to put a parenthesis because this is not such an easy, I have to make sure that I'm putting the whole a plus 1 in there. So in place of x, I'm putting a plus 1 minus 2. Now, I could simplify this because I know when I'm multiplying a number by a binomial, I have to use a distributive property. So 3 times a will give me 3a, and 3 times 1 will give me 3. And I still have this minus 2. And combining these like terms of 3 minus 2, this will give me 3a plus 1. As g of a plus 1. It's 3, it worked out to be 3a plus 1, because when I put in place of my x, a plus 1, and simplify, that's what I got. So this is how to use functional notation. Okay, there are 2 more questions that we didn't do on this sheet, so I'm gonna just put them on the board, and let's do those now so that we can start on Friday fresh with chapter 3. Don't forget to look for homework on Delta Math. This type of thing is, I will probably add some homework for on functions also. So just look for your next homework. Make sure keep checking the Delta Math to make sure that you're keeping up. If you still have not done the quiz, a couple of people did ask me to reopen it for them. I still will give you an opportunity to do it if you want an extension, but you have to let me know that you want the extension. It will not automatically give an extension. Get in touch with me by email or tell me in class that you need an extension, and I will extend it for you individually. I'm not extending it for the whole class, but I'm extending it for anybody who requests it. And remember, your mark on this course is not just a result of your midterm and your final. You have to be doing the homeworks, and you have to be doing the quizzes and the class quizzes and tests, because that is 40% of your grade is from class work. So you have to be doing attending and doing the work and doing the homework if you want to get a decent grade in this course. Okay, suppose I tell you that h of x is 2x minus 1. And I ask you to find h of a minus 2. And that's question number 1. And here's question number 2 that we're going to do. F of x is equal to minus the absolute value of x minus 3. And I want you to find f of negative 1. Okay, let's Patrice just you said you could send this out to the whole class. Her office hours are Tuesdays from 1 to 3 and Fridays from 2 to 4. Aside from being here in class with us, Patrice was our master tutor and who is also an adjunct lecturer here in 136. So she's really knowledgeable. She has, in addition for being in class with us, she has office hours from 1 to 3 and 2 to 4. Now, where is that located? Are you doing this only remotely or are you in person? Okay, she's in the mathematics department in person. So it's very good that you have an option to, aside from just doing this remotely, is that you can go in and meet with Patrice personally. And if you have any questions, she's in the mathematics department, which is on the first floor of the science building on Bedford and is it Bedford and Carroll, right? Well, everybody knows which is the science department. Bedford and Crown. Thank you. Okay, so again, you have many options. You can make sure. Are you going to be sending out an email to the class through the Blackboard, or do you want me to do that? Okay, I will send out an email about your. Okay, great. Okay, let's look at these problems now. This one's a little bit like the one we just did. What is it here? They gave me an equation, h of x is 2x minus 1. So what are they telling me to do? When they ask me for h of a minus 2, it means go to your equation, go to the right side of the equation, because the left side is always the y or the h of x. Go to the other side of the equation, circle wherever you see an x, and there's only one place, and in its place, put a minus 2. In other words, do 2, okay, here's my new x, is a minus 2. And everything else stays the same. My x has been replaced with a minus 2. And now we just figure this out. This is 2a, and 2 times negative 2 is minus 4, and minus 1 from before. And the only thing we can combine is the negative 4 and the negative 1. So this becomes 2a minus 5. And that's your answer. They're not asking you, it's not an equation. It's just, do you understand how to work functional notation? Your final answer is 2a minus 5. Since this had an a in it, your answer will also have an a in it. What about this? This tells me that f of x is equal to negative the absolute values. Remember, these two lines are the absolute values of x minus 3. So what is that telling me? When I say find f of negative 5, it means go to wherever you have an x on that right side and replace it with negative 5. So this is going to become negative absolute value. Now here's my new x, negative 5. I'm replacing the x with negative 5 minus 3. All I did is in place of the x, I put that negative 5. Of course, these are all numbers, so I should be able to simplify. First of all, this is now negative 5 minus 3. So this is giving me inside that absolute value sign negative 8. It's negative the absolute value of negative 8. Well, now remember, we know what absolute value means. It means the number without its sign. So the absolute value of negative 8 is just equal to 8. So therefore, negative the absolute value of negative 8 is negative 8. My final answer is negative because this had a negative on the outside of the absolute value. So after I figured the whole thing out, I had to give you. And notice all you're doing is replacing. All right, I think we're going to stop right here. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask? All right, then I'm going to end class for everybody.